The border checkpoint should have been just another routine day. Hundreds of cars, thousands of faces, the same questions asked over and over again. But when a teenage girl in an oversized jacket stepped out of a silver Honda under the scorching Arizona sun, everything changed. She never said a word. She never called for help. But Luna, a trained Belgian Malinois with an instinct sharper than any technology, sensed something terribly wrong. What started as a standard vehicle inspection turned into a desperate race against time when the K9 began whining, a sound her handler had rarely heard before. Hidden beneath that heavy denim jacket wasn't just contraband. It was a secret so dark, a crime so cruel, that it would shake the entire station to its core. And buried within the evidence was a child's handwritten note that would lead agents on the most critical rescue mission of their careers. Before we begin, hit that like button, share this story, and subscribe to our channel. Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. We love connecting with viewers from around the world, because what Luna discovered that day proves that sometimes the most important messages are the ones spoken without words. And sometimes heroes walk on four paws. This is a story of how one dog's instinct saved two lives and brought down an entire trafficking network. Stay with us until the end, because what happens next will leave you breathless. The Arizona sun beat down mercilessly on the border checkpoint, turning the asphalt into shimmering waves of heat. It was just past noon on a Tuesday, the kind of day where time seemed to stretch endlessly between the monotonous stream of vehicles rolling through the inspection lanes. Border Patrol agent David Martinez wiped the sweat from his forehead and glanced at his K9 partner, Luna, a 3-year-old Belgian Malinois with intelligent brown eyes and a coat the color of desert sand. Luna sat perfectly still beside him, her ears rotating like radar dishes, picking up every sound in the bustling checkpoint. They had been partners for 2 years now, and in that time, David had learned to read her every movement, every subtle shift in behavior. She wasn't just a dog. She was his partner, his early warning system, and quite possibly the most dedicated officer at the entire station. "Another slow day, girl?" David murmured, running his hand along Luna's back. The dog's tail twitched once, but her attention remained fixed on the line of cars ahead. That was Luna, always working, always watching, even when nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The checkpoint sat on Highway 86, about 60 miles north of the Mexican border. It was one of dozens of interior checkpoints designed to catch what slipped through the border itself. Drugs, weapons, undocumented immigrants, sometimes even fugitives trying to disappear into the vastness of America. Every vehicle that passed through was a mystery box, and it was David and Luna's job to figure out which ones needed a closer look. A dusty pickup truck rolled forward, and David stepped up to the driver's window. Standard procedure. Quick, efficient, courteous. The driver, an elderly rancher with weathered skin and kind eyes, handed over his license without being asked. He'd been through this checkpoint 1,000 times before. "Afternoon, sir. U.S. citizen?" David asked, his voice carrying the practiced neutrality of someone who'd asked the same question 10,000 times. "Born and raised in Tucson," the rancher replied with a slight smile. "Just heading back from checking on my cattle down south." David glanced into the truck bed. Nothing but hay bales and ranch equipment. Luna sniffed near the vehicle's undercarriage, her nose working methodically, but she showed no interest, no alert, no concern. "Have a safe drive, sir," David said, waving the truck through. The morning had been like this. Routine, predictable, almost boring. But David knew better than to let his guard down. His training officer had drilled it into him on his first day. Complacency kills. The moment you stop paying attention is the moment something slips through. Luna suddenly stiffened, her ears shooting forward. David's hand instinctively moved to his radio, but the dog relaxed just as quickly. False alarm. Probably just a jackrabbit in the brush nearby. Desert wildlife was constant around here, and Luna's incredible nose picked up everything. The next vehicle approached, a silver Honda Accord with California plates. Rental car, David noted immediately. Rental cars always got a second look. They were anonymous, perfect for people who didn't want their own vehicle associated with whatever they were transporting. Inside the car sat a middle-aged woman with sunglasses and a teenage girl in the passenger seat. The girl wore an oversized denim jacket, despite the brutal heat. Her head down, dark hair falling across her face like a curtain. Something about the scene made David's instincts prickle, that sixth sense every experienced officer develops. He approached the driver's window, and the woman rolled it down, her smile just a bit too wide, too eager to please. "Good afternoon, officer," she said brightly. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" David's eyes flicked to the teenager, who hadn't looked up once. "Afternoon, ma'am. U.S. citizens." "Yes, both of us," the woman answered quickly, fumbling with her purse. "We're just driving back to Los Angeles from a little vacation in Rocky Point. You know, needed some beach time before school starts back up." The story was plausible. Thousands of American families drove down to Puerto Penasco every year for cheap beach vacations. But something felt off. The girl's posture was wrong. Her shoulders hunched forward, her hands gripping the edges of that jacket, like it was the only thing keeping her together. "Can I see both your IDs, please?" David asked, his tone remaining professional but firm. The woman produced 2 California driver's licenses. David examined them carefully. Maria Jimenez and Sofia Jimenez, mother and daughter, according to names. The photos matched, more or less, though the girl's picture showed someone who looked happier, more alive than the silent figure currently slumped in the passenger seat. Luna had moved closer to the vehicle now, her nose working along the door panel. David watched his partner carefully. She wasn't alerting, not exactly, but she wasn't moving away either. Her tail had gone completely still, and her breathing had changed, becoming more focused, more deliberate. "How long were you in Mexico?" David asked, handing the licenses back. "Just 3 days," Maria replied, her smile never wavering. "Quick trip? You know how it is." David nodded slowly. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to pull over to the secondary inspection area." He pointed to a covered area off to the side, where vehicles could be more thoroughly examined. The woman's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. "Is there a problem, officer? We really need to get back. Sophia has a doctor's appointment tomorrow morning." "Just routine, ma'am. Won't take long." David's voice left no room for argument. As the Honda pulled forward into the secondary area, David noticed the girl's hands trembling. She still hadn't looked up, hadn't spoken a single word. That heavy jacket in 100-degree heat suddenly seemed less like a fashion choice and more like a desperate attempt to hide something. Luna whined softly, a sound she rarely made. It wasn't her alert bark or her aggressive growl. It was something different, something David had only heard a handful of times in their 2 years together. It was concern. David's hand instinctively moved to his radio. "Control, this is Agent Martinez at Lane 3. I've got a silver Honda, California plates, moving to secondary, requesting backup for vehicle inspection. Copy that, Martinez. Sending Agent Rodriguez." As the woman parked the car and killed the engine, David approached again, Luna at his side. The dog's entire body language had changed now. Her ears were pinned back slightly, her head lowered, and that whine came again, soft but insistent. "Ladies, I'm going to need both of you to step out of the vehicle, please," David said, his hand resting casually near his service weapon, not threatening, just prepared. Maria climbed out quickly, still maintaining that brittle smile. "Officer, I really don't understand what the problem is. We're American citizens. We haven't done anything wrong." But David's attention was on the girl. Sophia had opened her door, but hadn't moved beyond that. She sat there frozen, her hands still clutching that denim jacket. And now, in the harsh sunlight, David could see something he hadn't noticed before. The jacket was moving slightly, a subtle rhythm that didn't match the girl's breathing. Luna's whine grew more urgent. She took a step toward the girl, then looked back at David, her eyes pleading. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. "Sophia," David said gently, crouching down to eye level. "Sweetheart, I need you to step out of the car for me. Can you do that?" The girl's head lifted slowly, and for the first time, David saw her face clearly. Her eyes were red-rimmed and glassy, filled with fear so profound it made his chest tighten. Tears tracked down her cheeks, and her lips trembled as she tried to form words. Please, she whispered. So quietly David almost missed it. Please help. And that's when Luna did something she'd never done before in her entire career. The highly trained Border Patrol dog sat down directly in front of the teenage girl and howled, a long, mournful sound that echoed across the checkpoint and brought every agent running. Whatever Sophia was hiding beneath that jacket, Luna had found it, and from the look of absolute terror on the girl's face, David knew that the next few minutes would change everything. Time seemed to freeze in that moment. Luna's howl still echoed across the checkpoint, drawing agents from every corner of the facility. David's heart pounded as he watched Sophia's face crumble, tears streaming down her cheeks in silent rivers. The girl's hands clutched the denim jacket tighter, and now David could clearly see the irregular movement beneath the fabric, a rhythmic rising and falling that sent alarm bells screaming through his mind. Agent Maria Rodriguez arrived first, her hand instinctively moving to her weapon as she assessed the scene. She was a 15-year veteran, a woman who'd seen everything the border could throw at her, but even her experienced eyes widened at the sight of Luna's unusual behavior. "What V we got, Martinez?" Rodriguez asked quietly, positioning herself on the other side of the vehicle. "I don't know yet," David replied, his voice low. But Luna's never acted like this before. The woman claiming to be Maria Jimenez had gone pale, her earlier confidence evaporating like water on the hot asphalt. "This is ridiculous," she protested, but her voice cracked. "You're scaring my daughter over nothing. We just want to go home." David ignored her, focusing entirely on Sophia. The girl was shaking now, her entire body trembling despite the oppressive heat. He took a careful step closer, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. Luna mirrored him, her whine dropping to a soft, concerned rumble. "Sophia," David said gently, his voice taking on the tone he'd use with a frightened child. "Whatever's happening here, whatever you're scared of, I promise you're safe now. Nobody's going to hurt you. But I need you to tell me what's under that jacket." The girl's eyes darted to the woman beside the car, then back to David. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Fear had stolen her voice, left her paralyzed between what she wanted to say and what she was afraid would happen if she did. "Don't say anything, Sophia," the woman commanded sharply, her mask finally slipping. "Remember what I told you. Remember what happens if you talk." Rodriguez stepped forward immediately. "Ma'am, I need you to step back from the vehicle and keep your hands where I can see them." The woman's jaw clenched, but she complied, moving several feet away. David noticed her eyes constantly flicking toward the access road, calculating distances, looking for an escape route that didn't exist. Whatever was happening here, she knew the game was up. Luna moved closer to Sophia, pressing her body against the girl's legs in a gesture of pure comfort. The dog's training had taught her to detect drugs, weapons, and hidden compartments, but her instinct taught her something far more valuable: how to recognize someone in desperate need of help. "It's okay, sweetheart," David whispered, kneeling beside the open car door. "Luna knows something's wrong. She's trying to help you. Will you let us help you?" Sophia's resolve finally broke. A sob tore from her throat, raw and painful. Her hands slowly, trembling, moved the zipper of the oversized jacket. "I'm sorry," she whimpered. "I'm so sorry. She said she'd kill my little brother if I didn't do what she told me." David's blood ran cold. "Your brother? Where is he?" "She has him." Sophia choked out, tears flowing freely now. "She said if I talked to anyone, if I tried to run, if I didn't do exactly what she wanted, she'd hurt him. He's only 8 years old. Please, you have to help him." "We will," David promised, his voice firm with conviction. "But first, I need to know what's in the jacket." The girl's hand shook violently as she began to unzip the heavy denim. The woman who claimed to be her mother suddenly lunged forward. "No, Sophia, don't." Rodriguez intercepted her smoothly, spinning her around and pressing her against the vehicle. "You have the right to remain silent," she began, but David's attention had already shifted back to Sophia. The jacket fell open, and David's breath caught in his throat. Taped to the girl's torso, wrapped in clear plastic and secured with layers of duct tape, were dozens of small packages. Even from a few feet away, he could see the distinctive white powder inside. His stomach churned with a mixture of rage and sorrow. They'd turned this child into a drug mule, used her fear for her brother to force her compliance. But that wasn't what had made Luna whine. The dog had been trained to alert to narcotics, yes, but she'd been trained to bark, to sit, to signal in a clear, precise way that indicated a drug find. The whining, the howling, the obvious distress, that was something else entirely. David's eyes moved beyond the drugs to Sophia's skin, and what he saw made his jaw clench with barely contained fury. Bruises, purple and yellow, covered her ribs and abdomen. Some were fresh, dark, and angry. Others were fading, speaking to days or weeks of abuse. The girl hadn't just been forced to smuggle drugs. She'd been beaten, terrorized, broken down until she was too afraid to ask for help even when help was standing right in front of her. "Oh, sweetheart," David breathed, his professional composure cracking for just a moment. Luna wasn't alerting to drugs. She was alerting to you. She knew you were hurt. Luna pressed closer, her warm body offering comfort that words couldn't provide. The dog's training had taught her to find contraband, but her heart had taught her something more important: to recognize a victim. "Martinez, we need paramedics here now," Rodriguez called out, having secured the woman in handcuffs. "And call IC. I want to know everything about this woman, who she really is, who she works for, and where that little boy is." David was already on his radio. "Control, this is Martinez. I need immediate medical response to secondary inspection. Female juvenile, approximately 15 years old, showing signs of physical abuse and coercion. Also need DEA notification. We got what looks like approximately 10 to 15 pounds of suspected cocaine or heroin taped to the victim's body. And contact local PD. We have a potential kidnapping situation involving an 8-year-old male child." The checkpoint had transformed from routine operation to full crisis response in a matter of minutes. Agents swarmed the area, establishing a perimeter. An ambulance screamed down the access road, its siren cutting through the desert air. The supervisor, a gruff man named Jackson who'd been with Border Patrol for 25 years, arrived and immediately began coordinating with other agencies. But David's focus remained on Sophia. He stayed kneeling beside her, maintaining eye contact, offering what comfort he could while they waited for medical help. "You did the right thing," he told her softly. "You were so brave, and we're going to find your brother. I promise you that." "His name is Miguel," Sophia whispered, her voice barely audible. "He's scared of the dark, and he cries when he's alone." She kept him locked in a room. I could hear him crying through the walls. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. I wanted to help him, but I couldn't. Every time I tried to fight back, she'd hurt him worse. Luna whined again, pressing her nose gently against Sophia's hand. The girl's fingers instinctively moved to the dog's fur, finding comfort in the soft warmth. The paramedics arrived, their professional efficiency kicking in immediately. But as they began to carefully remove the taped packages from Sophia's body, documenting each layer for evidence, David noticed something that made his heart skip. Hidden among the drugs, pressed against Sophia's skin, was a small piece of paper, folded tight and secured with tape. "Wait," he said, stopping the paramedic's hand. "What's that?" They carefully extracted the paper and handed it to David. His hands, steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his system, unfolded it slowly. Written in shaky, childish handwriting were 5 words that hit him like a physical blow. "Help us. Casa Azul. Tucson." Sophia saw the note and gasped. "Miguel wrote that before they separated us. He's smart. He knew if something went wrong. If I got caught, that note might help find him." David's jaw set with determination. Casa Azul, the blue house. Somewhere in Tucson, a terrified 8-year-old boy was waiting for rescue, and David was going to make damn sure they found him. He looked at Luna, who sat alert and focused, her eyes moving between Sophia and David. The dog knew their work wasn't finished. Not even close. "Good girl, Luna," David said quietly, scratching behind her ears. "You found her. Now let's find him." The checkpoint had transformed into a command center. Inside the air-conditioned office, multiple agencies crowded around computer screens and maps spread across every available surface. FBI, DA, local Tucson PD, IC, and Border Patrol, all working together with a single urgent purpose. Find Miguel before whoever was holding him realized their operation had been compromised. David stood near the back of the room. Luna pressed against his leg as he watched the woman from the car being interrogated in a separate room through a one-way mirror. She'd finally given him a name, not Maria Jimenez, but Carla Vega, a mid-level enforcer for a cartel trafficking operation that had been operating out of Tucson for the past 3 years. "She's not talking," Agent Jackson muttered. Frustration etched into every line of his weathered face. "Lawyered up the second we read her rights. Claims she doesn't know anything about any boy." David's hands clenched into fists. Sophia gave us a location. Casa Azul has to be somewhere in Tucson. How many blue houses can there be? In Tucson, Detective Sarah Chun from TPD shook her head grimly. Thousands. And that's assuming Casa Azul is even the actual color of the house. Could be a street name, a business, a code word. We're running database searches now, but without more information. "We don't have time for database searches," David interrupted, his voice tight with urgency. "That kid has been locked in a room, terrified, probably for days. And the moment whoever's running this operation realizes Carla didn't check in, realizes Sophia got stopped at the checkpoint, they're going to panic. They'll either move the boy or..." He couldn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Everyone in the room knew the alternative. Luna whined softly, sensing David's distress. He reached down, his fingers finding the familiar comfort of her fur. The dog had been by his side through this entire nightmare, and even now, she seemed to understand the stakes. A young FBI analyst named Torres looked up from his laptop. "I've got something. Cross-referencing cartel-safe houses we've identified in the Tucson area with blue or azul in property records, street names, or business registrations. Coming up with 12 possibilities." 12 is too many, Jackson said. "We can't hit 12 locations simultaneously, and if we guess wrong on the first one, they'll scatter like cockroaches." David's mind raced. Think. There had to be something. Some detail they were missing. He closed his eyes, replaying the moment at the checkpoint. Sophia's face, her fear, her trembling hands. The note hidden among the drugs. Miguel's childish handwriting. "Wait," he said suddenly, his eyes snapping open. "Sophia. We need to talk to Sophia." Detective Chin frowned. "She's at the hospital. They're treating her injuries, and... I don't care. She's the only one who's been inside that house. She might remember something, a detail, a landmark, anything that could narrow down the search." David was already moving toward the door. "Luna and I are going to the hospital. Keep working the databases. But I'm not waiting around while that kid runs out of time." 20 minutes later, David and Luna walked through the sterile hallways of Tucson Medical Center. Sophia had been admitted to the pediatric wing, and a Child Protective Services worker sat outside her room. The woman looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying over yet another broken child in a system that saw too many. "She's awake," the worker said softly, "but she's fragile. The doctors say the physical injuries will heal, but the psychological trauma..." She trailed off, shaking her head. "I understand," David replied gently, "but her brother is still out there, and she's the only one who can help us find him before it's too late." The woman nodded and opened the door. Inside, Sophia lay in a hospital bed that seemed far too big for her small frame. She'd been cleaned up, her injuries treated and bandaged, but the fear in her eyes remained unchanged. The moment she saw Luna, though, something shifted, a spark of recognition, of trust. "You found me," Sophia whispered, her voice hoarse. "Your dog found me." David approached slowly, Luna walking calmly at his side. "She did, and now we need your help to find Miguel. Can you talk to me about the house where they kept him?" Tears immediately welled in Sophia's eyes. "Is he okay? Did you find him?" "Not yet," David admitted, pulling a chair close to her bed. "But we're going to. I promise you that. Sophia, I need you to think back. When you were at that house, what do you remember? Anything at all, what it looked like, what was around it, sounds you heard, smells, anything." The girl closed her eyes, and David could see her physically struggling with the memories. Luna, sensing her distress, moved closer, resting her chin on the edge of the bed. Sophia's hand immediately found the dog's head, fingers tangling in soft fur. It was a small house, she began quietly. One story. The outside was painted blue, but it was faded, peeling in places. There was a metal fence around the yard, and the gate squeaked really loud whenever anyone opened it. David pulled out a notepad, writing quickly. Good. That's good. What else? There were bars on windows. And I remember... She paused, her brow furrowing. I remember hearing trains. Not like right next to us, but close enough that I could hear them passing by, especially at night. The whole house would shake a little. Torres had mentioned one of the possibilities was near railroad tracks. David's pulse quickened. What about inside? What did you see? They kept Miguel in a back bedroom. I only saw it once, when they first brought us there. It was small, with just a mattress on the floor and a bucket. Her voice broke. He was so scared. He kept asking for Mom, and I couldn't tell him. Your mother? David asked gently. Sophia, where's your mother? The girl's face crumbled completely. She's dead. 3 months ago. Cancer. We didn't have any other family, so we were going to go into foster care. But then Carla showed up. She said she was a family friend, that she could take care of us, that we wouldn't have to be separated. A bitter laugh escaped her. We were so stupid. We actually believed her. David's chest tightened with rage and sorrow. These kids had lost everything. Their mother, their safety, their childhood, and predators like Carla had seen nothing but an opportunity to exploit their vulnerability. You weren't stupid, he said firmly. You were children who needed help, and evil people took advantage of that. But you're safe now, and we're going to get Miguel back. I need you to keep thinking. Anything else about the house or the neighborhood? Sophia squeezed her eyes shut, concentrating. There was a church. I could see the top of it from the bathroom window. It had a white cross on top that lit up at night. And there was a dog barking all the time from the yard next door. A big dog, deep bark, like Luna's but meaner sounding. David was writing furiously now. Blue house. Peeling paint, metal fence, squeaky gate, bars on windows, near railroad tracks, view of a church with an illuminated cross, neighbor with a large dog. He grabbed his radio. Torres, you getting this? The analyst's voice crackled back. Copy that. Running it now. Stand by. The seconds stretched into minutes. Sophia kept her hand on Luna's head, drawing strength from the dog's calm presence. David watched the girl and his partner, marveling at the bond that had formed between them. Luna had found Sophia not just because of training, but because of something deeper, an instinct to protect, to help, to serve in the most fundamental way. Martinez, I've got it. Torres's voice burst through the radio, electric with excitement. 1847 South Park Avenue. Small blue house, metal fence, near the Southern Pacific tracks. Church of the Sacred Heart is 2 blocks north. Has that illuminated cross you mentioned. Property records show it's been vacant for 6 months, but we've had it on our radar as a possible cartel safe house. Never had enough evidence for a warrant until now. David was already moving toward the door. Assemble tactical teams from all agencies. I want that house surrounded in 15 minutes. And Torres, make sure everyone knows there's a child inside. An 8-year-old boy. Rules of engagement are tight. Nobody takes any shots unless absolutely necessary. Copy that. Mobilizing now. David paused at the door, looking back at Sophia. We're going to bring your brother home. I promise you that. The girl nodded, tears streaming down her face. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I tried to protect him. You did protect him, David said softly. You kept that note safe. You gave us what we needed to find him. You're a hero, Sophia. As David and Luna raced toward the elevator, his radio exploded with chatter. Teams were mobilizing from across the city, converging on a small blue house on South Park Avenue where a terrified 8-year-old boy was waiting for rescue. The race against time had entered its final, most critical phase, and David was determined that the story would have a happy ending. Luna barked once, sharp and clear, a sound of readiness, of determination. I know, girl, David murmured as they burst through the hospital doors into the blazing Arizona afternoon. Let's go get him. The convoy of unmarked vehicles descended on South Park Avenue like a silent storm. No sirens, no lights, just the quiet, deadly efficiency of multiple law enforcement agencies working in perfect coordination. David and Luna rode in the lead vehicle with Agent Jackson and Detective Chun, the tension inside thick enough to cut with a knife. The sun was beginning its descent toward the horizon, painting the Tucson sky in shades of orange and purple. In any other circumstance, it would have been beautiful. But all David could think about was an 8-year-old boy locked in a dark room, probably wondering if his sister had abandoned him, if anyone was coming to save him. Target House's visual, the driver announced as they turned onto South Park Avenue. There it was, a small, single-story house with faded blue paint peeling away in strips, exactly as Sophia had described. A rusted metal fence surrounded the property, and even from half a block away, David could see the bars on the windows. His jaw clenched. This wasn't a home. It was a prison. The vehicles parked strategically around the block, agents deploying silently into positions. FBI tactical team at the front, DEA covering the back, local SWAT on the sides. They had the place locked down tight. A fly couldn't leave that house without someone seeing it. Jackson's radio crackled to life. "Command, this is Sniper 1. I have visual on 2 subjects inside. Living room area. Appears to be 1 male, 1 female. No sign of the child yet." David's heart hammered against his ribs. 2 subjects meant Miguel wasn't alone in there. It also meant complications. His hand moved to Luna's vest, feeling the familiar weight of her presence beside him. The dog sat perfectly still, her eyes fixed on the blue house, every muscle coiled and ready. Thermal imaging shows a 3rd heat signature, another voice reported. Small, consistent with a child. Back bedroom, northeast corner. Subject appears to be sitting or lying down, minimal movement. That had to be Miguel. David's throat tightened. The boy was in there, probably terrified, possibly hurt. Every instinct screamed at him to rush the house immediately, but years of training held him back. Tactical situations required patience, precision. One wrong move could get the child killed. "We have positive ID on the male subject." Torres's voice came through. Carlos Mendoza, known cartel enforcer. Multiple warrants including kidnapping and assault. Consider him armed and extremely dangerous. Jackson turned to the assembled team leaders. "We do this clean and fast. Priority 1 is the child's safety. Priority 2 is taking these suspects alive. We need them to roll on their organization. Everyone clear?" A chorus of affirmatives echoed through the radios. David checked his service weapon, then looked down at Luna. "You ready for this, girl?" The Belgian Malinois' tail swished once, her eyes locked on the target. She was born ready. "All teams on my mark," Jackson commanded. 3, 2, 1, execute. The front door exploded inward with battering ram, the word police echoing through the evening air. Agents poured into the house from multiple entry points, their movements choreographed through countless hours of training. David and Luna went in with the second wave, moving to the living room where 2 suspects were already being forced to the ground, weapons drawn and pointed at their heads. "Clear." Voices shouted from room to room as agents swept through the small house. Kitchen clear. Bathroom clear. Front bedroom clear. David's focus narrowed to a single closed door at the end of a narrow hallway. The back bedroom, northeast corner, where thermal imaging had detected a small, motionless heat signature. "Let me go first," David said to the tactical agent positioned outside the door. "If the kid's in there, he's going to be terrified. A dog might be less scary than a bunch of men with guns." The agent nodded, stepping aside. David approached the door slowly, Luna at his side. His hand gripped the doorknob, and he took a deep breath. "Miguel," he called out softly. "Miguel, my name is David. I'm a police officer, and I'm here to take you to your sister Sophia. She sent me to find you." Silence. Then, so faint he almost missed it, a small voice. "Sophia?" David's heart leaped. "That's right, buddy. Sophia's safe. She's waiting for you. I'm going to open this door now, okay? Don't be scared." He turned the knob slowly, pushing the door open. The room was exactly as Sophia had described, Small, dark, with a single bare mattress on the floor and a bucket in the corner. And huddled against the far wall, knees pulled to his chest, was a small boy with dark hair and eyes that had seen far too much fear for someone so young. Miguel flinched when the door opened, pressing himself harder against the wall. His face was dirty, tear-streaked, and his clothes hung loosely on his thin frame. He looked like he hadn't eaten properly in days. "Hey there, Miguel," David said softly, crouching down to make himself less intimidating. "See my friend here? This is Luna. She's the one who helped us find your sister, and she helped us find you too." The boy's eyes moved to the dog, and something in his expression shifted. Luna, reading the situation with her uncanny canine intuition, moved forward slowly, her body language completely non-threatening. She approached Miguel carefully, then sat down about 3 feet away, her tail wagging gently. "She's pretty, isn't she?" David continued, his voice calm and soothing. "She really likes kids. Would it be okay if she came closer?" Miguel didn't answer verbally, but his hand moved slightly, fingers extending toward the dog. That was all the invitation Luna needed. She crawled forward on her belly, closing the distance until her nose touched the boy's hand. The dam broke. Miguel's face crumpled, and he threw his arms around Luna's neck, sobbing into her fur. The dog stayed perfectly still, accepting the embrace, providing the comfort and safety this child had been desperately lacking. David felt his own eyes burning. He'd seen a lot in his years with Border Patrol. Tragedy, cruelty, suffering. But this hit differently. This was a child who'd been terrorized, used as leverage to force his sister into compliance, locked away like he was worthless. The injustice of it burned in his chest. "Is Sophia really okay?" Miguel asked between sobs, his voice muffled against Luna's fur. "They said if she didn't do what they wanted, they'd hurt her. They made me write that note, but I didn't think anyone would find it. I didn't think anyone would come." "Someone came," David said gently, moving closer. "Luna came. I came. And a whole lot of other good people who wanted to make sure you were safe. Your sister is at the hospital, and she's going to be just fine. She's been so worried about you. All she wanted was to make sure you were okay. Can I see her?" Miguel's eyes, red and swollen from crying, looked up at David with desperate hope. "Absolutely. That's exactly where we're going right now." David held out his hand. "What do you say, Miguel? Ready to get out of here?" The boy hesitated for just a moment, then placed a small hand in David's larger one. Luna stood slowly, staying close to Miguel's side as David helped him to his feet. The boy's legs were shaky, whether from fear or lack of food and movement. David couldn't tell. As they walked out of that dark room into the hallway, agents stepped aside, their hard expressions softening at the sight of the small boy clutching the police dog. In the living room, Carlos Mendoza and his accomplice were already in handcuffs, their faces pressed to the floor. Miguel saw them and instinctively moved closer to Luna, but he didn't look away. "They can't hurt you anymore," David said firmly. "They're going to jail for a very long time. You and Sophia are going to be safe. I promise you that." Outside, paramedics waited with a gurney, but Miguel refused to let go of Luna. "Can she come with me?" he asked, panic creeping into his voice. "Please? I don't want to be alone." David looked at the paramedics, who nodded. "Luna can ride in the ambulance with you. She won't leave your side until you're with your sister. How does that sound?" Relief flooded Miguel's face. As they loaded him into the ambulance, Luna jumped in beside him, curling her body protectively next to the stretcher. David climbed in as well, unwilling to leave either of them until this nightmare was truly over. The drive to the hospital took 15 minutes, but it felt like a lifetime. Miguel talked almost nonstop, words pouring out of him like water from a broken dam. He told them about the night Carla had taken them from their foster placement, about the weeks locked in that room, about hearing Sophia crying through the walls and not being able to help her. He told them about his mother, about how much he missed her, about how scared he'd been that he and Sophia would be separated forever. And through it all, Luna stayed pressed against his side, her warm presence a constant reminder that he was safe now, that the worst was over. When they arrived at the hospital, Sophia was waiting in a wheelchair by the emergency room entrance, the CPS worker beside her, The moment she saw her brother, she leaped up, ignoring the protests of the nurses, and ran toward the ambulance. "Miguel!" she cried, tears streaming down her face. "Sophia!" The boy scrambled out of the ambulance and into his sister's arms. They collided in an embrace that spoke of love, relief, and the unbreakable bond between siblings who'd survived hell together. David stood back, Luna at his side, watching the reunion. Around them, hardened law enforcement officers wiped suspiciously at their eyes, turning away to give the kids their moment of privacy. Agent Jackson appeared at David's elbow, his gruff exterior cracked by the hint of a smile. "Good work, Martinez. You and that dog of yours just dismantled a major trafficking operation. The suspects are already talking, trying to cut deals. We're going to take down the entire network." David nodded, but his attention remained on Sophia and Miguel, still clinging to each other like they might disappear if they let go. What happens to them now? CPS is working on placement. They've got an aunt in Phoenix who's been trying to get custody since their mother died. With Carla out of the picture, there's no reason they can't be together. Relief washed through David. Together, that's all that mattered. Sophia looked up from her brother's embrace, her eyes finding David and Luna. She mouthed 2 words. "Thank you." David nodded, feeling Luna press against his leg. The dog's tail wagged slowly, contentedly. She knew, in whatever mysterious way dogs understood such things, that they'd done good work today. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deep purples and blues, David knelt beside his partner. "You know what, Luna?" he said softly, scratching behind her ears. "You didn't just find contraband today. You found something way more important. You found hope." Luna's tail wagged harder, and she let out a soft, satisfied sound. In a world that often seemed filled with darkness, she brought light to 2 children who desperately needed it. And in that moment, watching Sophia and Miguel hold each other under the fluorescent lights of the hospital entrance, David knew with absolute certainty why he did this job. Not for the arrests or the accolades, but for moments exactly like this, when justice prevailed, when evil was stopped, and when innocent lives were saved. All because one exceptional dog had refused to ignore a silent cry for help.